Hello everyone, welcome back to my fertility series. Today's video is basically going to be about how can you prep for baby? What do you need to know? How do you know if you're ready to have kids? So this video is all about, what do you need to figure out? What do you need to talk about with yourself, with your partner, and how can you prep before you actually start trying to have babies? This is something that, because we like to surprise people, we want to surprise people with our pregnancy. We feel like we can't talk to anybody about it because we want it to be a big surprise. And so therefore we tend to not reach out and ask a lot of questions and think about all the things that we can do before having a baby and before starting to try that whole process. So this video, I'm firstly going to talk about what those questions are, what are some things you can be asking yourself to make sure that you're ready, and then moving forward into how can you prep and what should you prep before actually trying to conceive. So first, let's start out with just questions you should be asking yourself. And you can have this conversation with your partner. Honestly, I highly encourage it because it can help your partner better mentally prep for what being a parent is going to look like. So one of the big first obvious questions that you can be talking to yourself about and even your partner about is finances. And so finances are, do you feel like you're consistent enough? I mean, even if you're not consistent, just can you get the majority of your bills paid? Or are you still in a spot where you're still relying on friends or family or credit cards? I think it's very important to have some financial independence before getting into being pregnant. Even if you're getting help from friends and family, that's okay. But you just don't want added stress during this whole process. You want to be able to buy the things that you want to be able to buy and have the nursery that you want. And so that's a good starting point to talk about is like, okay, we're here. How can we get over here? And this is kind of what I did in my life coaching sessions that I took with Allison. And I came to her and I was like, look, I want to be a mom. This is the life I want to have, but I'm over here and this doesn't make sense. I don't know how to get from here to here. And so she helped me basically take baby steps, and honestly just doing the exercise of understanding where I'm at now or then and then where I want to be was enough to make me realize, oh my gosh, I can change a lot of this. I can change it now. I just got to get to it. And so all of these things are conversations that even if you're not checking off yes on all of the boxes, that's not a bad thing. It just means these are areas you should explore. So the next big thing is, are you happy in work? I think this is important because at the end of the day, you come back to your family, your job shouldn't deplete you or make you hate life. Obviously work does that to some extent, but think about it in this way. In the next 10 years, if you are being forced to be there because of your baby or whatever, because of finances, are you still okay being there? If the answer is no, make that change now. Why wait? Why wait and try to figure it out when your kids are 18 or never figure it out at all and get stuck in that situation? Just another thing to think about. Another question that I ended up asking myself was, do I feel secure in my physical location? Like, I'm in Colorado, do I want to raise kids here? The answer was yes to that. There's some people who have traveled a lot for work and maybe, you really want to go back to your hometown to have kids. And then, on the smaller scale of that is, do you have a house that fits said baby? And the room I'm in right now is currently my office, and it's an extra room that we have in this house that will eventually be my nursery. So I thought I'd film a lot of the videos in here. The other big question is, are you trying to fill a hole? Is this want for a child or a baby just really something else? And for example, I really was lonely at one point, and I really wanted a dog. And I wanted a dog, and I wanted a dog so bad, and I talked to my husband about it, and he didn't want a dog, and so I went and got a dog anyway, and it was the worst decision I could have made. Obviously I don't regret having my dog. It's all great now. But what happened was I really wasn't wanting a dog. I was just really lonely, and I was not in a good spot with my relationship with my husband at the time. He was my boyfriend at the time, but it was my way of trying to fill that need for love, and I thought that getting a furry creature would fill that need for love, but in a way, because my husband resented that and he didn't want the dog and I got it anyway, it made it worse. It made us fight more. It made the whole situation more stressful. We weren't a team because of it. And it took a long time for us to train our dog to do anything, because he kind of had this attitude of, well, I didn't sign up for it and I didn't know what I was doing, and so I just let the dog do whatever he want. And long story short, I invited that in, and I wasn't prepared, and because I wasn't prepared, it was a bad situation for both of us. And so I think that often happens with babies, is we don't make sure our partner is on the same page, and then we're kind of left stranded, and really this is a two-person job. And so at the end of the day, I made this decision because I was feeling lonely, and something that I could have done instead was just talk to my husband and said, I'm feeling lonely, I miss you, I feel like our relationship's not in a good spot. And we could have maybe came up with solutions like date nights. We didn't have that back then. We didn't figure that out until later. And we could have figured something else out that was actually filling my need without, jumping into something like a dog or a baby. So I think it's very important to be honest with yourself and journal this out. Are you really ready for a baby? Are you looking for something else instead? And this is a great way that you can pull tarot cards, ask this question. And I think in your gut feeling, if you're manic manifesting, if you want this so bad you're going to explode, I say that that's usually a sign that you're trying to go after something that's unattainable. And so if you can learn how to be in the moment and appreciate what you have, it's gonna resolve that manic manifesting, and you're gonna realize that actually what you need is XYZ. Now, not saying you don't want a baby, and sometimes you just know, and I'm gonna talk about that in my next video when I actually start my fertility journey, because I'm at a point where I feel like I just know. I know I'm ready, although the things on my list are not quite complete. I feel like I'm close enough to where I'm happy with where I'm at right now. And so on that note, the next thing you want to do, besides having these talks, these questions that you ask yourself and ask your partner, you want to examine your own bad habits next. And I would say that this has been super important for me because, when a baby comes along, you're kind of put second. And it's important that you figure out the things that you've been struggling with. And, whether that's eating habits or sleeping habits or being able to get to work on time and be consistent in your work and your finances. Examining the bad habits you have is a great place to start prepping. So make a list of all the things that you feel like, I want to be good at this by the time I have kids. By the time I have kids, I've written down several times, I want to be healthy. I want to have a healthy pregnancy, because I know how poorly that affects your baby's health if you are not healthy while you are pregnant. I am a night owl. I want to make sure that I have a consistent sleeping schedule so I can physically deal with having a baby. So write out those bad habits that you want to correct. Besides having those conversations with your partner and with yourself, it's so important to set some goals for yourself so you feel like you can move closer towards starting a family. So the last thing I think you need to talk about, think about before you actually start prepping to have kids is to make sure that your partner is on the same page as you. And like I said, again, with this whole story with my dog and my husband, I have seen so many people, it's scary how many people want to jump into a relationship purely to have kids and with no prep at all, and they don't even want to tell the other person. I know probably 4 or 5 people that I can count on my hand right now that got into a relationship and intentionally had a pregnancy without letting the other person know. And if this is your plan, don't take offense, but this is not how you want to do it. You don't want a partner at the end of the day that says, I didn't want this, so I'm not going to help. That's not what anybody wants. So making sure that they're on the same page as you is so important, because you're going to have somebody who's helping you, who's your partner through this whole process. And then kind of to go along with talking about your partner is, have you had conversations about how you want to raise kids? Now, if you've been with your partner a long time and you've always known you wanted kids, it's probably been a conversation you've had more than once. But if you haven't yet, there's some major things that you can probably discuss to avoid conflict in the future. Religion. How do you want to raise your kids around that? That's a pretty big one. What kind of schooling do you want to give them? Some people want homeschool. It's becoming more and more popular. Some people want to still do public schools. The major stuff, like how do you want to live? Do you want to be a stay-at-home mom? Maybe your partner doesn't want that. Or maybe both of you want to parent and work at the same time. And just talking about those things, sometimes you don't realize how different your opinions are, and so it's good to just clear those out and get them out in the open, so then you can come to some sort of solution on how to figure it out. So I know this first section is very talking heavy, especially with your partner and with yourself, but I think this process can be done over many years. I have basically been doing this since I've started. And I think it's so important. My 20s, just to tell my personal story, my 20s were just about figuring myself out. The first 2 decades of my life was about school and getting stuff done. And then all of a sudden, you go to college, you finish, and it's like, I don't have to do anything. Technically, I could just, thrive off my family and my friends and just, sit at home all day and not have any goals. And so I think that's something that a lot of people have to learn in their 20s is, how do I function? How do I make money? You end up losing a lot of friends and realizing that friends are a lot harder to maintain because you're not around them 24/7 because of school. Your 20s are honestly about figuring out what is your routine for the rest of your life. I think you need this time to navigate and make mistakes. I'm super glad that I haven't had kids yet, because I've had the time to blow money and it didn't matter. I've had the time to make a ton of mistakes, and I didn't have kids, so it was okay that I made those mistakes. My husband and I have been together for 11 years. We got married at 9 years, and we really wanted to take the time to make sure that our financials were good, because we knew we wanted to have a job that we loved. And we work in film, and we created our own business, and it was super important for us to make sure that business worked before we brought in kids, because we didn't want to be trapped in a job that we hated. And so it's taken us a lot longer to get to those financial goals because we're making our own business and we're figuring that out. But I'm so glad we did it, because I am more financially secure. I am a lot happier in my work. I feel like I actually have something I can maintain for many years, because I've jumped around jobs and always came back to the same thing. And so I feel like I made the right choice. So there will never be that question of, did I do that right thing? Should I have done something else? I also had a lot of bad habits, and I still do. I ate really, really badly when I first met my husband. Sleeping habits, awful. I used to smoke a lot of weed, and I'm really glad that I don't do that anymore, because that's not something that would be conducive for being a parent. And I think that I had the time to fix that. I had the time to troubleshoot all of that. And so if you're feeling like you're still in the throes of all of that, know that taking the time to figure those things out is only going to make you a better parent. And, this whole time that you're trying to make this stuff more consistent, work through your bad habits, talk to your partner, you're going to be mentally preparing you and your partner for what this next chapter looks like. And that is progress. And know at the end of the day that there's always going to be problems. You are never going to be perfect. I have been sort of struggling with that. I feel like I have to be perfect before I can have kids. But you're going to figure it out, and you can never be fully prepared. And I used to hate when people say that, because I was like, yes, I can be prepared. But there's just some things that you just can't prepare for until you're in it, and that's okay. So once you've had all these conversations, what can you actually do to start prepping to conceive? So for your health, one of the things that you can ask yourself is, okay, pretend I just found out I'm pregnant and I've been pregnant for a month. What have I been eating over the last month that I regret? And it really brings up the fact that, okay, maybe I need to stop drinking so much. Maybe I need to do all of these health changes. Maybe I need to start working out. Any of those health habits, starting them now is only going to help you. Another thing you can do if you're a woman is you can start taking prenatal vitamins. Those will not hurt you at all if you start taking them now. Another thing you can do to start preparing to start a family is just to talk to people about it. Besides doing a ton of research, I found that talking to people about it has eased a lot of my concerns. Another thing you can do is start talking to your doctor. There are certain tests that you can take now. There are certain vaccines that you can get to help you prep. Your doctor can talk to you about your individual needs and maybe things that they think you should work on right now. And figuring out who your OBGYN is going to be. I had an OBGYN who was just not the best. I didn't like her. She did not support some of my ideas of wanting to be at a birth center. And so I was like, you know what? That's not the person that I want to have. And so I'm finding somebody else. And I think that's important to do ahead of time. You don't want to be stuck with somebody you hate if you're already pregnant. Another big thing, which you are probably already doing to prep, is research. YouTube videos, books, anything. You guys know how to research. Doing that will help you mentally prepare, and it can only be good for you. There's some people out there that when I told them I was researching and reading books, they were like, why are you doing that? You can't learn that. But I swear to God, you can learn a lot of things from books about pregnancy. This book is one of my personal favorites because it's so big and it has everything you could possibly need, and it's so colorful, and I've taken a lot of notes. This goes from the start to the end of your pregnancy. This is a great bouncing board to start your research journey. Now, the last thing that you can do to start prepping before you actually start conceiving is to buy things. I think that a lot of people think that if I buy baby stuff, it's going to jinx it. And I will tell you as a psychic, there's no such thing as jinxing. There's only such thing as manifesting. And so if you're buying a few baby things here and there, you're helping the manifestation process. Now, I do not think you should be going out and buying everything for your nursery because, on the worst case scenario, you can't have a kid. That would be awful if you just not only spend all that money, but set yourself up for something like that. But there is little things you can buy here and there to start moving towards that direction. And anything you get ahead of time is just going to help you out. Any research you do ahead of time is just going to make you more prepared. I truly view this as a time for you to get more and more prepared, because think about it, as soon as you get pregnant, you have a stopwatch. You got 9 months. You have to do everything you possibly want to do in those 9 months. So don't leave all of the things that you want to do till last minute. The more time you have, the more you'll feel prepared. So assuming that you've kind of worked through these questions for yourself, you've talked with your partner, you guys are on the same page, maybe you've set some goals of things you want to change, things you want to make better, and you're already starting to prep by doing research or, whatever that means to you. The biggest thing that I would recommend to do is to have a ritual. And so this is where the fun woo-woo stuff comes in. And so this is actually my husband's idea. And I have never seen anything out there online about this, which is why we had to make it up from scratch. But I'm giving this to you guys. It is a fun date night idea. And so what it is it's basically a ritual to end the time of your relationship where it was just the two of you and move forward into, okay, we're going to be parents and this is going to be a new relationship. This is going to be a new thing, a new role that we have to have. And my husband was like, I want a ritual. I want to do something to where I feel like I'm releasing this part of my life and bringing in a new part of my life. And I was like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And so I came up with an idea, and it was very intuitively guided. I think I woke up at 1 a.m. I had this idea. It was my guides, and they were just telling me, do this, do that, ask these questions, do this, and this is the order. And think I was up till like 3 in the morning, like creating this ritual idea. And so I'm going to provide it to you guys on my blog, and I will link it below. And it's basically a date night. And what it is a scavenger hunt. And what you're going to do is you're going to find your baby. And if you read the blog, it'll all make sense. It's kind of, it sounds cheesy because it's a scavenger hunt, but it's really, it forces you to have conversations. It forces you to think about things maybe you haven't thought about. And you're going to learn a lot about each other during this whole process. So when I did this with my husband, he was, I pitched it to him. I was like, this is what it is. And he was surprisingly into it. And so the great thing is we started out our day, and I kind of showed him the scavenger hunt, and then you take the day to kind of go off on your own and develop things for the scavenger hunt, and then you come back and share it with each other in front of the fire. I don't have any photos of us in the fire because it was really, or in front of the fire because it was really dark, but what I learned from this process was that my husband and I still had a lot of fears, and I wanted this to be like a fun, positive, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be parents, oh my gosh. But it was it was scary. It was more scary because I was like, there was a lot of things we were scared of. There was a lot of negative energy that we had around being parents, and we kind of ended the night with releasing those fears, releasing those intentions. And I'm so glad we still did it because I learned that, okay, he's not as ready as I am, and I can do things to help him. Just getting those fears out in the open was so helpful for both of us. And I love just doing something ritualistic because you're really putting a period on this part of your life and moving on to the next. And when you're both doing that together, you are setting a huge intention to the universe by saying, we are ready for this. So if you want to look at that date night idea, check out the blog post in the link below. I give you everything that you need for it. Again, I think it's a great way to connect with each other, even connect with your future kids. In the date, you end up talking to your kids and using tarot cards, and it's a ton of fun. Awesome, guys. So I know this was a lot of talking. I hope that this video gives you some things to think about. I think that out there, nobody really makes a video about, how can you actually prepare for a baby mentally, financially, all of that stuff. They only usually talk about, well, here's what you can buy. And buying that stuff is not really going to help you. But using your intuition, talking to each other, using tarot cards, getting guidance is going to be the easiest and fastest way that you can get over your fears, get guidance, and start to move forward on having the pregnancy that you want to have. So in my next video, we're going to talk about what happens when you're ready to start actually conceiving. And the whole next video is going to be about my journey and my fertility journey, and I'm going to kind of walk you guys through what I go through, what I've read for other people. There's going to be a lot more b-roll. This is, again, a little bit more talking at you, but the next videos you're going to see a lot more of what I'm actually doing and some exercises on how to communicate with your baby, how to invite in that energy. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you got some great stuff out of this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below, or any other things that you feel like people should prepare before they have kids, especially if you are already a mom or a parent. I'm so excited that you guys are joining me on this journey. Keep an eye out for the next video. It might take some time because who knows how long it'll take for me to get pregnant. But I'm so excited to share this with you guys. And remember that at the end of the day, even with pregnancy stuff, anything that happens in your life, you can use your intuition and you can get guidance and you can work through everything. Everything is figure outable. And at the end of the day, trust your gut.